So this is a teaser video or kind of a preview video about what's coming with this new Groove Shadow instrument. And I wanted to give a little background about the Groove Shadow concept. There's a lot of people dabbling in spectral effects processing and spectral production these days, but it's all still very subtle. So what I wanted to mention about Groove Shadows is that it's much more than a dub. It's the idea of being able to pull any sound and then make the sound musical. And the musical component is rhythmic or it's melodic. And what makes the Groove Shadow take the new sounds into new directions is this ability to forge these sounds that are not normal sounds, combine these sounds into musical components. And within that realm exists the new level of rhythm, the new rhythms and the new melodies. So it's a bigger deal than some kind of filler material or dub material that goes behind other things. And initially, when I came up with the idea of Groove Shadows, it was based on two different things. One was the idea to make an entire production based on sound design, but not just like a Hollywood trailer style or horror effects style sound design, but like interesting and musical sound design. So there were a couple of pieces of great producers who inspired this idea, and of course synthesizers themselves. They're not really ordinary, and so they're really capable of such incredible new types of tone. So we have new tone, new melody, and new rhythms working together with Groove Shadows. And so the first idea was everything's in effect, which is the birth of the Groove Shadow concept. The second idea is to use the Groove Shadows more inside of things to make them more developed. So you have a spectralized version of whatever you're going to apply it to. So if you have like the standard drum rhythms and you take the Groove Shadow, you no longer have this standard idea of the drum rhythm. It's sort of like putting like a flavoring onto whatever you're applying it to, and then that becomes more like the flavoring. And except in dealing with the Groove Shadow concept, I thought of something else, which is that you're dealing with the digisphere. So you're dealing with the entire spectrum of capable sounds that are capable of being reproduced through digital technologies. And then you're superimposing all of these new kinds of sounds into traditional conventional roles like rhythm, tone, and melody. So in doing that, there exists this ability to create the new melodies and the new rhythms and the new tones. So that's really what Groove Shadow is capable of. And it's also, a very helpful tool to quickly create, interesting things, which is one of the primary functions of it for many, many years. Even before I was born, people were doing it. They just didn't have the terminology. They would call it dub, for instance. So, but this is more specific because we're dealing with creating a new form of music that's based on the spectral sound and then pulling that into the focus and doing away with the traditional sound. Now, as I got older as a producer, I realized why they put these rhythms that are so conventional behind songs and behind productions. And it's basically because it's danceable. Because the DJs and the club scenes and all these things are still a huge factor in the way that producers approach the production process in music. But when I first came up with Groove Shadows, I wasn't thinking about any of that, and I wasn't worried about any of that. So I wanted to have an unchained version, both texturally, rhythmically, and whatever else, spectrally, I guess, where you could go and come up with something totally unexpected and hard to kind of discern. Because for me, that's always been the interesting part of music, is the novel factor. And since I grew up in radio stations and since I come from a musical family, it's like my ear was trained to sort of skip past the Mozart, and I can appreciate what they are about and the mechanical process of it all and what mood that sets and the various moods you can apply it to and all these things. But it's a sort of thing where I'm skipping over things that aren't going to be next level, next generation. If I was going to listen to Mozart, I would zoom into a Mozart piece and take maybe a millisecond splice of Mozart, stretch it out, twist it up, rhythmic, make it rhythmic, do all these crazy things. That's what I think when I want to hear something of music. So that's why I really was trying to always push in music creative directions. And that's why my whole purpose has always been to push the boundaries. Everybody has kind of become involved with, creating new kinds of music. But my approach is a little different because that's been the primary focus. And because of my unconventional path in my career, I've stuck with that root focus all my life. So that's why my ear is going to react a little differently to, what's novel and what isn't novel.